Hello and welcome back to my channel. Jacob Payton here, and today we are going back to North. For all of you EverQuest fans, I grew up, EverQuest was the big MMO up until World of Warcraft came out. Obviously that kind of decimated it. But while I did not spend a lot of time in North, I did enjoy the time I spent mostly playing on private servers and stuff like that. And obviously I played the free version of EverQuest once Sony Entertainment sold it. It was very hard to justify my parents getting them to give me their credit card or anything like that for a $15 a month subscription fee for a video game. So that was not really in the cards for me, whereas I could cut grass and play, buy World of Warcraft game cards for neighbors and stuff like that. So that definitely became the game, and especially it was a lot more popular. That being said, I did play a bunch of Champions, I think it was Champions Return to Arms, which was on PlayStation 2 and let you actually have 4 players playing at once, very hack and slashy, but set in the same world, and that was a lot of fun. I very much enjoy EverQuest level of world building, and I have been looking for the novelization set in EverQuest for a while now, and I finally found one in the wild. A lot of the other ones that I've come across have either been completely just in terrible shape, or they were super expensive, because there's a lot of love still for EverQuest. If you look around the internet, especially, there are still people that play the game. There's still people that subscribe to the game. There are still new expansions coming out. I played both EverQuest 1 and 2. And I actually played EverQuest 2 before it went free to play. I mean, these games both have, I think 20-some expansions. I think EverQuest might be 27 or 28, actually. I don't know about EverQuest 2. EverQuest 2 was fun as well, but they just kind of made the... I just never really liked the character models. If you can look up images of them. It's something to do with the way they made them was just kind of weird. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. I just didn't enjoy it. I just remember a lot of the high level stuff is everyone had funny hats. But that's neither here nor there. You get me started on EverQuest and this is what happens. I guess one of the other big aspects that I did not enjoy about the game, and I really don't play a lot of MMOs now for this fact, is that I just don't have time to grind, and EverQuest and EverQuest 2 are very grindy games, right? Grinding is central to, kind of their gameplay in a way that I don't think it is in a lot more modern MMOs. You could grind in Elder Scrolls Online, or you could also just get a bunch of experience from running, running dungeons and doing quests, which a lot of the quests in Elder Scrolls were pretty fun. And I think Lord of the Rings Online was like that too. Lord of the Rings Online is probably the last serious MMO I played. I would call Elder Scrolls being a pretty casual MMO. And that is enough discussion of my MMO histories. If you also enjoy MMOs, or you played EverQuest, or you still play EverQuest 1 or 2, let me know in the comments. But I promise I'm gonna move on now. But I will say that, I guess there is something weird about MMOs, is you devote so much time to them, and, as a gamer, that it does seem that games like this, that fan base, it dies down, but it never seems to fully go away, and I think that is why the books and stuff are just so hard to find. And don't even get me started on the role-playing guides. They actually made a role-playing game, and I cannot find those anywhere. And like I said, what I have seen for sale online is is a bit more expensive than I'm willing to pay, especially for a game that I know I'm never going to convince my D&D group to play. But this is EverQuest Truth and Steel, which I found in the back of a flea market for $3, and I'm really excited about that. I actually shared about it on Instagram and some other stuff because, like I said, I was really psyched. And this is written by Thomas M. Reid, which the inside says that he's written other books, and I might actually go try to track those down because I did very much enjoy this book, so it's going to be interesting to see if he has any of his own original works. And I'm kind of hoping he does, because his fantasy world building, even in this, which is obviously, this is a known world, I just thought was really good. I mean, I think he did a really good job of bringing North to life. Although I will say that some of the names, the name of the main character and the name of the, I guess, second main character kind of made me laugh. We have Caniel, which is Daniel with a KH. Devlin, a Steel Warriors mercenary from Freeport. Never met a fight he didn't like. He's got little use for the gods or magic, trusting in his own prowess and the perfection of his martial training to see him through. But when a chance encounter in the mountains with a haughty and zealous follower of Nathaniel Marr turns tragically awry, Caniel sees his perfect world crumble. Unable to accept the flaws suddenly exposed within, the warrior turns away from his humanity and aspires to live only as an animal, fighting for survival. Living among the vicious ogres of Agak, Caniel finds the very escape he seeks. Soon enough, the former mercenary discovers that running away from his past is not so easy, and a strange twist of fate forces him to choose between the beast he sees inside himself and the humanity he fears to face. So Caniel is a berserker, which comes super clear early in the book. I do not remember if berserker is what they called the class or if it was like battle something. But anyway, there was two types of fighters. That much I do remember, and one had like rage abilities and carried axes and that kind of stuff. And the tiger people, who I also can't remember what they were called, that was a very popular class for them. And so, you know, that does play out in this book. Not with the tiger people, sadly. And then we also have the paladins. And the paladins, if you played EverQuest, were very haughty. They were very into themselves. Any interaction you had with paladins, they made it very clear that you were a little lesser than them, which is fine. The second main character, of course, is the paladin Zethamy, who Caniel thinks he killed. Right? He is in a battle rage. A trap is sprung. Cyclops are everywhere. He was with his good friend, the dwarf brewer Bruggen, who I think is... I actually don't know what class he is supposed to be, since he is just a brewer and he carries a club. I don't know if it ever made it clear if he was... I mean, because he's not really a cleric, because he really doesn't do magic, so I'm very unsure. That was the only character that I felt was a little weird, because he is just described as a brewer, which of course is a profession, but in EverQuest people have classes and professions. So that was the only one that was a little off, and it was only off to me because in terms of gameplay mechanics, obviously this is a fantasy and it was supposed to be that EverQuest was real, and this is not a lit RPG, but still. I did think that Caniel fought and stayed pretty true to his class, quote unquote, the way he does in this book, right? He prefers axes. He does really well when enraged. Of course, he does strike down Zethamy in a beginning battle. Or does he? That plays out later in the book. But that costly mistake does get him cast out of not only the Steel Warriors, but also Freeport. The Steel Warriors being the major warrior faction in Freeport. If you ever played EverQuest, there were factions in each city. And depending on your race and class, you could join with these factions. And then some had quote-unquote secret factions, which I think it's like the Church of Hate or something is in this one, and they follow the god of, it's like hate, chaos, and destruction, and that sort of stuff. But you could find, you know, stuff like that. If you explored these cities, you could kind of find these secret tunnels, especially in the sewers, that would lead you into these places. And that is what I think always made EverQuest really stand out compared to some other games, because in EverQuest, you know, those choices really mattered. And depending on your race and class, you might not be able to understand other players, right? It would come out as gibberish or whatever they decided Elvish or Dwarvish or Ogre sounded like, right? And I don't feel like other MMOs have really done that same level of world building. And I understand that that's a difficult thing to do because obviously you don't want to limit how players interact with each other, right? You want people to be able to team build and talk to each other and do stuff, especially nowadays where most people play MMOs like single player games. But I'll be honest, I kind of miss that that type of stuff in MMOs because it did so much with world building that I just don't think we see anymore, right? It definitely seems like most MMOs now, it's just kind of a grind to progression type thing, whereas this, in EverQuest, you had to work together, and they make that clear in this book as well, right? Caniel needs to rely on others. He befriends people in the ogre city because, of course, they get sold to ogres, where he basically decides he's going to die as a gladiator, right? He's only good to live as an animal. He struck down a companion. How dare he? And this is how he's going to die. But luckily for him, midway through the book, it is found out that Zethamy actually survived her injuries and is not dead like he feared, but she is blind, and the Cyclops that captured her actually sold her to ogres. So now, to redeem himself, he has to rescue her from the exact captivity that he was basically cool being in. And I thought that was kind of interesting too. And I also feel like, and I don't know if the author did this on purpose or not, but I didn't hate the way, I guess, hate's a strong word. I very much enjoyed, let me rephrase that. I very much enjoyed the quiet distinctions he made between races that I think you would have had to know like a little more about the game to understand, but it definitely felt like a deep cut, especially the way like explaining the interactions with others, right? Because Caniel doesn't even really hate ogres the way that Zethamy and Bruggen do. And the reason he doesn't is because humans are a neutral class and a neutral race in EverQuest, and he's a human warrior. So he can go either way, because that was the whole thing in EverQuest. Like, you had to learn other races' languages. You had to build rapport and do quests and stuff to be accepted in different races and classes, cities. So that is kind of playing out here. But Bruggen will never really come to like and accept ogres because dwarves were a good race, or a goodly, or however they phrased it. And since ogres were distinctly evil, just like high elves and dark elves, they were never, in instances they could tolerate each other and they could work together, but they were never going to be overtly friendly. They were never going to be, have those deep connections, that someone like Caniel could make, right? Caniel could live out the rest of his days in Agak and move up the gladiator stuff, but that would literally be worse than death for someone like Bruggen. And I very much enjoyed that because I remember playing EverQuest and I remember running into these other cities and my character just being treated like trash by the guards, or even completely run out by the guards for so much as thinking I was gonna step foot in there. And the shopkeepers, and stuff, not doing business with you because of your race and class. And like I said, I very much enjoyed that aspect of world building, and I liked seeing it on display because, it's something that could have easily been glossed over, right? It could have been, it didn't have to be done, but it was one of those deep cuts that I very much, enjoyed. Yeah, I really liked this book. I thought it played very well into the tropes and the lore that makes EverQuest, fun, but at the same time was very much its own thing with the characterizations and stuff like that. I mean, obviously EverQuest was very much, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. It had a main story aspect that was very much like gods fighting gods, very like, level 20 D&D or advanced D&D stuff, right? Where once you get to a certain point, you are not even concerned with what's happening in cities. You are fighting on like a heavenly plane, essentially. And I like that the author chose not to go this route, right? He is just focused on what's happening in the cities. You know, he does introduce us to these different factions, but I think does it in a way that there's no like jump the shark style plot that's going to happen, right? Like at no point is Caniel or Zethamy, I mean, well, Zethany's a paladin, so she does have some heavenly insight, but there's not, you know, gods coming down from the heavens and giving them magical weapons or anything like that. It's just the fun adventure and exploring aspect that made EverQuest great, and also is fun to see in fantasy books, right? That's what they're doing. They have a quest, they're going to complete the quest from the beginning, or try to complete the quest from the beginning, and that's really what the book is about. And I very much enjoyed this. It felt very sword and sorcery in the way that the fight scenes took place, which I really liked. It could have been, you know, it could have been very boring or clunky fight scenes depending on how, I guess, deep into EverQuest the writer wanted to go, but that's not what we got here. We got a very exciting and fun book, so I very much enjoyed Truth and Steel. If you do come across this EverQuest novel, I would say go ahead and pick it up. And if you know about more Thomas M. Reid books that I should look into, you know, also let me know, because I did really enjoy this book, and I would really like to read some original fiction by him, because I would be excited to see what, you know, he does with that, because his world building in this was, you know, immaculate. You know, I think he built something that was very engaging, while at the same time staying true to, you know, the EverQuest map and EverQuest lore, and not, I would say, adding to it instead of diluting it, which I thought was really fun. And you don't always get in novel tie-ins, especially for video game novel tie-ins. Now, that being said, not only would I like to know about more Thomas M. Reid books, if you know about more EverQuest novelizations, definitely let me know, because I very much enjoyed this one, and I would love to read one. Or read another one, obviously, but I would really love to read some that are like, you know, if there are any series that were written, I would very much like to see that. Because while I will never probably play EverQuest like I did when I was, you know, 10 or 11 ever again, I would love to live vicariously through a fictional group of adventurers. It's one of the reasons I like reading lit RPG, and I can't think of a better way to do that than to actually, you know, read about a group of adventurers in a digital world that I, you know, used to love so much. So, yeah, I really can't say enough good things about this. If you can find a copy, I would say go ahead and do it. I would love to see these get republished. I doubt Daybreak Games is thinking about that at all. I don't even know who owns the rights to this, because, I mean, this was put out by a company called CDS Books and is co-stamped by Sony Online Entertainment. I don't know if CDS is still around. Sony Online Entertainment, that whole like division, I'm pretty sure is gone out of Sony, because I don't know. For those of you that are old enough to remember, Sony used to have a whole division that was just massively multiplayer online games, and they owned, I don't even know how many games. I know it was a lot. But that's neither here nor there. I talk about stories. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of people on YouTube that can better educate you on the rise and fall of Sony Online Entertainment than I can. So yeah, let me know if you know about more books out there, or if you know places I can track them down. You know, I check eBay, I check Amazon. If there's other places like Macari that you think are worthwhile, you know, let me know. And also let me know which ones are worth checking out. So, as always, though, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.